Hi, everyone. I'm Lise, a strategic marketing manager here at Repligen. And I'm so glad that you could join us here today for episode 5 of Repligen's 2021 webinar series. I hope you were able to tune in for some of the previous episodes, but just as a recap, in the first few episodes, we discussed things like the COVID-19 affinity resin, intensification using the Excel lab system, as well as chromatography. The last episode talked about the configurability and compliance of the CrossFlow KMPI TFF systems and how they deliver automated TFF under 500 liters. If any of those episodes piqued your interest, you can still access them through Repligen's event page on the website. In today's episode, we continue within the CrossFlow TFF family. Namely, it's about the FS15, the CrossFlow FS15 and FS500, which are newly launched, flat sheet optimized TFF systems to enable you to access complete automation and modernization for your TFF processes under 500 liters. Expanding on that and diving further into the solution will be Monica Amin, who's a field application scientist for North America West here at Repligen. Before I hand it over to Monica, though, there's a few housekeeping items we want to go over. The first is that this webinar will be recorded so that we can make it available to you on that events page after the webinar has ended for on-demand viewing. The second is that there's a live Q&A panel on the side of your screen. You're welcome to submit a question at any time throughout the presentation, and Monica and I will address them at the end of the talk. The third thing is that you can also upvote the questions that you find particularly interesting. So keep an eye on the Q&A panel for those types of questions. The fourth thing is that there will be live polls. The first poll is live right now, and it's really helping us understand your process needs a little better. The second will go live at the end of the talk, and both can be accessed through the polls tab right next to your Q&A tab. After you're done answering the polls, though, make sure to switch over back to the Q&A panel so that you don't miss any of the questions, get a chance to upvote, and ask some for yourself. With that out of the way, we can turn to today's presentation, which will be on the CrossFlow FS systems. Handing over to you now, Monica.
Thank you, Lise. Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Amin. I am the field application scientist for downstream TFF at Repligen. Thank you for attending this webinar today. Today, I will be talking to you about Repligen's exciting new, truly automated, purpose-built flat sheet TFF systems. I'd like to start off with a brief history about Repligen. Repligen was founded on manufacturing the protein A ligand. From this, we have expanded our portfolio to provide solutions for multiple bioprocess steps. Just to name a few, the XLATF for upstream processing, CrossFlow integrated single-use TFF systems for downstream processing, hollow fibers and tangenic single-use cassettes for downstream processing, and the Solo VPE for protein concentration analysis. Today, the talk will be focused on the downstream systems. At Repligen, we are developing a family of TFF systems that can support different hollow fiber and flat sheet applications at the lab, the pilot, and manufacturing scales. Our systems utilize different pump mechanisms from peristaltic to maglev and now QuatraFlow to support a variety of different applications. The FS15 and FS500 are the newest to the family. Across all systems, we have incorporated automation because it is key to having an efficient and robust process. If you have performed manual TFF before, you have probably experienced the pains that come with it. Manual systems, you are constantly babysitting these systems, manually setting up flow paths, adjusting pressures and pumps, and manually sitting in front of a system writing down data points. Now, this can become very time consuming and can also add a lot of process variability. There are several large-scale systems with complete automation. However, that level of automation doesn't exist for the small scale. Some systems still have a basic processor, have disconnected control and recording, manual TMP adjustment, hybrid stainless steel and single-use flow paths, and limited 21 CFR compliance. Now, to achieve complete automation, the operator should be able to walk away even with multi-step processing, and the TMP should be able to be controlled automatically. On top of that, modernization is key to ensuring repeatability and compliance. To have a modern system means to have centralized control and monitoring, 21 CFR compliance, and a fully closed single-use flow path that can be integrated into the system. Our FS15 and FS500 systems have this complete automation and modernization. The communication and integration that are key to the automation occurs through the main pump. It is made possible with a Repligen exclusive microprocessor-based controller. This is the same through all of our crossflow systems. The main components are the main pump, the Surface Pro, where the software lives, the back pressure valve, and the scales. The design is modular, where you can plug and play components without loss of automation. If an operator wanted to add an additional pump, for example, they would just have to connect it and it would automatically show up on the software so that they can use it for their process. It really is just that easy. There are some key differences between the FS system and our existing KR2I and KMPI systems. Due to many flat sheet applications being run at higher pressures, we have modified some of the system components. The pump is a quattro-flow diaphragm pump, which has low pulsation, enabling high pressure operation, up to 4 bar. The back pressure valve has been re-engineered to function with high pressure thick-walled tubing. And in addition to that, we are offering a fully closed high pressure ProConnex flow path that can be integrated into the system. For the FS500, we have developed a base plate to help the operator optimize core component placement for ease of use and hold-up volume. The FS500 also allows for a permeate flow sensor to be integrated for fluid management. The KF-COM2 software includes all of the Tangentix cassette part numbers. This makes recipe writing easy so that the operator doesn't have to enter filter details manually. Lastly, if a customer is interested in purchasing the FS15 and FS500, we do offer a comprehensive starter package, which allows the customer to cater to their own TFF steps without needing to go ahead and purchase new additional components. Everything would already be in that comprehensive package to get them started. Now you're probably wondering, how do these systems scale? They scale directly. The FS15 handles volumes from 140 mils to 15 liters, and the FS500 from 1.2 liters to 500 liters. The software, the pump design, back pressure valve, and the scale technology all remain the same. The only difference is that the components are larger because they need to process larger volumes. There's really no new learning between the two scales, which makes scaling up and down very easy. Even with scaling, there is no loss of automation. Both scales offer the same level of automation. Through system communication, the integration of the components, the modular capability, and the software, the operator is able to run 13 different modes. In this table, C means concentration, D diafiltration, and F feed. TFF steps within a process, with any bioprocess, can involve different process modes, depending on the application. You can have a single step process like concentration, or a multi-step process like constant feed, concentration, diafiltration, concentration. I know that was a mouthful. Even with the added process mode steps, our systems maintain complete automation. Let's go through some examples. The first example here is a straight concentration. All that is needed to perform the single mode application is the main pump, scales, flow sensor, if using the FS500, back pressure valve, and the KF-COM2 software. There's really no manual monitoring or adjustment needed at all. The weight and the pressure are controlled and monitored automatically. Now, if you wanted to add an additional step like diafiltration, because of the plug-and-play nature of the system, you can connect an auxiliary pump and it would automatically show up on the software, where you would be able to set your targets in your recipe, hit start, and then walk away. And then the buffer would be automatically added, and you don't even have to be there to intervene. So the addition of the pump really allows for that automation. With the addition of the auxiliary pump, you can also operate different process modes, like constant feed concentration, concentration, diafiltration, concentration. So you have that flexibility. If we wanted to take this even a step further and add additional steps and sensor capabilities, this can also be easily done. You can add an additional auxiliary pump or conduit, which measures UV and conductivity to control and monitor your process. You can run all of these multi-step processes, have all these added components, and still walk away from the system. That's called true automation. The FS15 and the FS500 systems are a complete user experience. The hardware, the software, the Tangentix cassettes, and the ProConnex FlowPath is a total solution from Repligen for flat sheet cassette applications. At Repligen, we have a team of local experts to help you through the implementation of this technology. Local sales specialists, field application specialists, bioprocess system specialists, project managers, automation and process engineers, and field service engineers. We really want to be here to help you be successful. So I'd like to end by saying thank you very much for attending this webinar. And now I'm going to hand it back to Lise.
Thank you so much, Monica. And now we have time for some Q&A. So first, there's a couple questions that have more to do with housekeeping that we'll address. And it's from Robert and George about whether you can access this webinar afterwards if there's a recording or a copy. Yes, in about a week's time, we will upload this webinar onto Repligen's events page on the website. So then we have the most popular question right now is from Sarah regarding hollow fiber. Can I run hollow fiber on the FS system?
Thank you, Lise. So yes, you can run the hollow fiber on the FS system. However, the FS system is intended and optimized for flat sheet operations. Flat sheet operations, typically you'd be operating at a higher pressure, and so you'd need that higher, that quattroflow pump to support that higher pressure operation. But if you are within the ranges of the pump capacity and the pressure ranges, then you should be able to operate the hollow fiber as well.
Exactly. Absolutely possible, but like we showcased earlier, there are multiple technological modifications that make it really well suited for flat sheet applications. Thank you. The next question is from Stella around components. Can you swap the components around between the two systems?
So you can, yes, again, thank you for the question. You can swap the components between the two systems. However, it's important to keep in mind that at different scales, you're going to need different flow rates and you're going to need different scale capacities. So you just want to make sure that, you know, with the volumes that you're working with, the components that you are going to be using are going to be appropriate for those volumes.
Absolutely. So then we have a question from Giles V regarding the flow meter permeate scale. Instead of the flow meter, can we use a second scale to control the permeate?
Thank you for the question again. And yes, you can use a scale to control the permeate. To control the permeate. But for the flow meter, with the flow meter, you can actually get higher accuracy. And it's better for fluid management, especially at the large scale, like for the FS500 system.
Absolutely. Then we've got a question from Julia regarding processing time and automation. What is the average processing time for a 500-liter batch with full automation?
So that is a bit of a loaded question. Everyone's application and product are different, so the fluxes that you'll get in your process are going to vary, which can also vary your process time. It really depends on your product and your application in terms of what that process time is going to be. But if you do have, you know, any sort of data, small scale data regarding your fluxes, and you'd like to know what that scale up would look like, the FAA's team can definitely help with that.
Okay, thank you, Monica. Absolutely. The next question is from Sarah regarding also automation. And it has to do with up to how many steps can you run automated on the system?
So majority of the time, operators will probably run about 2 to 3 steps. That could be concentration, diafiltration, concentration. But you can actually get up to 4 steps. So you could do like a constant feed, concentration, diafiltration, and then a concentration. Or you could even do a concentration, diafiltration, diafiltration, concentration. And with all 4 of these steps, you still maintain the automation throughout the process. So you'd set your parameters in the beginning, you'd hit start, and then you could walk away.
Exactly. Like we mentioned before, the real one of the key things about the system really is that throughout all this capability to do multiple step processes, all the way up to complex processes, you never lose automation. It only grows with new data points added to the data you collect. Then we have a question from Michael H. This one is a longer one. It's about, can we buy the pump by itself to implement in our current Repligen KR2i system? What is the flow range of the pump for the FS15 and FS500 system, or is it the same pump used for both scales?
So the KR2i system, the main pump uses a peristaltic pump, and that single pump bed goes up to about 2 liters per minute. With the FS15 system, the same system scale, that pump goes up to about 3 liters per minute. So there's no, and it's a different pump. It's a QuatraFlow pump. So you can't really replace the KR2i pump with the QuatraFlow pump. Also, the differences are also with the back pressure valve. So with flat sheet operations, you're running at higher pressures, and therefore you need that back pressure valve that can support that higher pressure as well as that pump. So there's really no retrofitting that we can do there. But if you were, let's say, working with if you did have like an auxiliary pump or a KR1 or a KR Junior, then those could be used, but not the main pump itself. And then in terms of, is it the same pump for both scales? So the FS15 and the FS500, they are both QuatraFlow pumps, but they support different flow rates. So with the FS15, where you'd be able to process up to 15 liters, that's you'd be able to go up to 3 liters per minute. And then with the FS500, you'd be able to go up to 18 liters per minute.
Exactly. And we have an associated question about flow rates from Carlos. As for the FS15, what would be the optimal flow filtration per hour?
So again, that's a question that's based off of the application that you are running. Everyone's product's different. What we usually suggest is doing optimization studies to find the most optimal parameters to run your process at. So our typical with our L screen cassettes, for example, we would say running within the 4 to 8 liters per minute per meter squared range is what we see a lot of our applications. But you could play with those cross flow rates and those pressures, those TMPs, do an optimization study to find the most optimal region to run your process at. And that cross flow rate, that cross flow rate actually correlates to a flow rate that you'd be able to operate your process at.
Exactly. So there's another question regarding the volume range of the systems from Matt. What limits the FS500 to a 500-liter batch?
So that is going to be it's a couple of different things, the pump capacity as well as the scales. So making sure that, at 500-liter scales, you're probably, depending on what cross flow rates that you're operating at, those flow rates are probably going to be the max that you can achieve at the 500-liter scale. And also the scales will have a maximum that they will be able to operate at as well.
Absolutely. So there's another question from Hua. Could we pair your control system with TFF filters, not flat sheet filters from another company? Thank you.
So I think this question is similar to that hollow fiber question that we answered earlier. So if it is a hollow fiber from a different company, you can definitely use that hollow fiber from a different company. We would hope that you'd go with Repligen, but that's totally fine too. We do in our software have the capabilities for you to actually enter in other vendors' hollow fiber information or flat sheet cassette information. So you can definitely, it is interchangeable, and you can use other filters in there as well.
Absolutely. And, like Monica said, there are, benefits obviously to the Repligen technology, to the TenGenix filters for flat sheet and the hollow fiber filters. And we also supply the system, the launch package for the system comes with your TenGenix cassette holder and kind of the flow path and kind of the full package that you need to get your processes going. So yes, absolutely. And then we've got just enough time for one more question. Thank you everyone for asking so many questions. We really appreciate the engagement. And the question is the flow meter from Jean-Sebastien, is the flow meter also compatible with the previous generation of systems, KR2i and KMPI?
So the flow meter at this point is for the FS5, is for the FS systems. And if you are looking for the integration into the previous systems, we can definitely talk to our software engineers regarding that. But we do offer the flow meter for the FS systems to help with that fluid management at the larger scale.
Absolutely. I'm sure as many as there are different processes, there are different customers, different needs for your lab or your facility. So Repligen has, like Monica mentioned at the end of her presentation, all different experts to support you in your selection of the system, what could work for you and your process, as well as throughout the whole implementation process. So with that, I'd like to wrap up. Thank you all very much for joining today. Thank you, Monica, for your talk and for the Q&A. And I hope to see you again for episode 6 of the Repligen 2021 webinar series. Have a good day.